as we, kind of ramp this up every single week, Joe, we're getting closer to the trade deadline here. This to me, with the way the Mets have been playing, we haven't learned a lot. It kind of feels like it's more of the same conversations. I would say the more of the same is it feels like this team doesn't have an everyday center fielder. I mean, maybe they strike out at the deadline and Stearns had protected himself. And we'll get to Stearns' press conference in the middle of this. And they just ride it out with Jeff McNeil a lot in center field. I don't know if that's a realistic answer for the remainder of the season. Yeah, obviously they want an upgrade over Taylor, and Taylor upgrades their fourth outfield spot when he's in that spot. So it's a double upgrade. I think if you want to argue that we've learned anything, they might be able to get by in the infield with the kids. I don't think we're sitting here and going, if you don't get a third baseman, it's a disaster. It definitely can lower the floor because, unfortunately, for young players that have been inconsistent, like Beatty, like Vientos, like Mauricio, and Acuna, who's been up and down in terms of being on the team, you don't always know what you're getting week to week with them at third base. But if you can kind of ride a hot hand at different times, that might be able to work. We know they're going to be going after bullpen because not only has David Stearns been pretty honest about that, there's no need to hold your cards to the vest. Every contender in baseball wants relief help, and every team that thinks they're out of it or close to out of it, what are you going to get rid of? Rental relievers. You might even get rid of relievers that have a year or two of team control left because you got to strike while the iron's hot, which we saw the Mets do a couple of years ago as well. It's just an easy way to try to get some volume of a prospect return. But it doesn't feel like a lot has changed, Joe, unless there's actually supply of the starting pitching market. I don't think that exists right now for the Mets. I think the Mets have an issue where they don't have enough starters that go deep into games, and that has this trickle effect on the bullpen. But if there's not starting pitching to be had on the trade market, then you need to build up as much of the bullpen as you can. Hope that Sean Manaea can get back to being a six-inning guy alongside David Peterson. Kodai Senga, okay, can he stay healthy and be that guy? I'm a little bit skeptical, as much as I love the talent that he has. Asking Kodai Senga to go out there and give you 6 innings every fifth or sixth day for the rest of the season, you kind of cross your fingers and hope for the best. But that's kind of where it's at right now, Joe, where it still feels like relief help, hopefully a center fielder. And then I think Mets fans hoping for a lot more, and they don't want to hear this. They get, I think, angry at Stearns and everyone else. I don't know if the supply is there for just total rehaul of this team right now.
There isn't, and there isn't going to be. And ultimately, the Mets are going to win or lose on the backs of the players that are here.
Right.
The deadline is for adding to the core. And, like you said, we'll get into some stuff that David Stearns said. They have to come away with a center fielder for me. I
agree. It's not negotiable.
I appreciate Jeff McNeil's versatility, and all things considered, he's been fine in center field, but there's going to be a couple options in center field. There's going to be Cedric Mullins, almost certainly from Baltimore, who you can platoon with Tyrone Taylor. There's going to be Luis Robert Jr., and I know people groan when they hear about Luis Robert Jr., because 2 years ago, this was a guy that looked like he was on the precipice of being an MVP candidate, one of the best players in the sport, and the last calendar year has not been good. It's been bad, straight up. But here's where I think Luis Robert can make sense for the Mets. One, the Mets versus left-handed pitching this year, they're hitting .229 with a .665 OPS against left-handed pitching. Despite Luis Robert just getting over the Mendoza line recently for his stats for the season, versus lefties, he's hitting .299, .427 on base percentage, and a .979 OPS versus left-handed pitching. So you could bring Robert in and sort of do the pseudo platoon if you want, like to give Tyrone Taylor some reps or McNeil some reps in center field. Maybe Robert focuses more against left-handed pitching and you kind of see how it goes. This is a guy that's turning it on as we move closer to the deadline. Over his last 12 games, he's hitting .350, OPS of 1.050. So he's turning it on, I guess, at the right time. And if you want to take really that home run swing, that's what Luis Robert is. There's a chance that you fall on your face, but contractually it can't really kill you because it's 2 team options after this year. so the Mets would have the option to keep him or let him go. But I'm getting more and more receptive to the idea of bringing Luis Robert in. He has the speed, he has the defense, everything that you want. Now it's just a matter of, can he come to a contending situation and step up? And then as
Yeah,
far as, yeah, go ahead, Connor.
no, I totally agree. Where that's more of the ceiling chase, right? The speed of Robert, because I love when this team is aggressive, but he's got to get on base to utilize it. And I just wanted to piggyback off your point because it's a great call out how bad the Mets have been against lefties, which is almost bizarre because typically you would think Pete Alonso and Mark Vientos would kill left-handed pitching, and they haven't done that this year. One odd note to even back that up in support of Cedric Mullins, he has reverse splits. He hits left-handed, but against lefties this year, he's got an 854 OPS. He's hitting 288 and gets on base at a 39% rate. Against righties, he's hitting 192. So it's either of those guys significantly helps that problem, Joe, where if they walk away at the deadline with either of those players, there is a defined role for both of them, speed, defense, and hitting lefties, that the Mets need help in all three areas right now.
100%. So to me, there's no excuse to not come away with one of those guys. I think they're not gonna cost a ton to get one of
No.
them. You'll have to give up something. Like, it's not like it's for the price of my Twitter account or something.
Like a
It's
25th ranked ish prospect, 20th.
it might be someone around the top 20, give or take. Like, to me, you could get one of those center fielders for a reasonable price. So I would be very interested in pursuing that. Third base, I'm content with riding with the young players. It might be riding hot streaks, which Brett Beatty's on right now. Over his last 23 games, he's hitting 313, OPS of nearly 900 with 3 home runs. So, ride the Brett Beatty hot streak as long as it'll take, and then hopefully that coincides with Mauricio or Vientos to pick up the slack. And then on the pitching side, they have to add bullpen. I think that's obvious. Stearns knows it. You know it. Everybody listening to this knows it. I'd like to see a controllable guy if we could. And it seems like there's going to be an inventory of that, whether that is Emmanuel Clase from Cleveland, whether that is David Bednar from Pittsburgh. There's even some like outside rumors about Mason Miller. Like, I would be interested in seeing the Mets make an impactful reliever trade. And then as far as the starter goes, I'm with you that it doesn't seem like the market is all that hot. But if I could find someone, even if it's a floor starter, someone that is going to take the ball every time and you're going to get 5 to 6 innings out of them, I'm willing to, go and extend and try to add a starter as well. But I would agree with your general premise. I don't think the deadline is all that changed. It's center field, bullpen, and maybe a starter.